A couple of weeks ago, I was having one of the worst art blocks of my life. I felt I forgot how to hold a pencil. Everything I started went directly to the trash. I was trying way too hard to overcome this bump on the road. It felt draining. That's when I stopped and said to myself, forget any big projects or work you have for a second. Pick something you like and make a quick doodle to have some fun with art again. Immediately, Dungeon Messi came to my mind. It's probably my favorite manga of all time, so I just needed to pick a character to draw. Yeah, so I drew a 35-character illustration. Okay, so just a heads up. I'm gonna be talking extensively about Dungeon Meshi. I will avoid as many major spoilers as possible, but by the nature of this video, I'll be discussing some plot points and character arcs. If you wanna read it or watch it completely blind, maybe you wanna skip this video until you finish it, especially considering the illustration itself already contains a couple of spoilers. They are very vague and I'll try to avoid as much as possible to discuss stuff past season 1 of the anime. But yeah, last warning to click away, okay? Okay. For the people who are not familiar with it, Dungeon Meshi, or Delicious in Dungeon if you go by its English title, is a manga by Ryoko Kui that has been recently adapted by Studio Trigger into an anime. It tells the story of a group of adventurers, whose one of its members, Fallen, gets eaten by a dragon while exploring a dungeon. During her last moments, she manages to cast a transportation spell to save everyone else, at the expense of having them lose almost all their equipment and provisions. Laios, the party leader, and Fallen's older brother, decides to go back into the dungeon immediately, along with just the only 2 members that didn't quit, if they want to have any chances to save Fallen before she gets digested. Without provisions, they'll be forced to eat monsters to survive, something that Laios is kind of excited about. In their descent through the dungeon, they meet Senshi, a dwarf who has been living in the dungeon and is highly knowledgeable of the different uses of monsters for cooking. He joins them in their quest to save Fallen before it's too late. I'm not kidding, this is the longest I've spent on any illustration ever. I haven't really timed myself doing it, but I'm sure I've spent at least 40 hours on it. My original plan was to draw the main 5, but then I thought, I should include Fallen, it just makes sense. And you know what? Let's include Thistle, he is a dungeon lord. How could I not? And if we include Thistle, we might indulge and draw Kaburu. He's also a very important character. And if we include Kaburu, it's only fair to add Mithran. And since we are at it, let's also add Namari and Toshiro. And we should obviously add the winged lion. We can draw the other parties too, because how could we not include important characters like Kiki and Kaka? Or like Toten. I could not include Toten. So I drew everyone. I mean, not everyone, because I kind of forgot to include the orcs, or maybe Delgul. But let's pretend it was an intentional choice. And it's not like there was much space left. But this relates exactly to the point I wanted to make with this video. The characters in this show are so good, both because of their design and personality. Every character, no matter if they are part of the main cast or a background character, feels so alive. Even if it's a fantasy world, the characters make it so realistic and alive, and you just want to know more about everyone and the history and world building, and I'm guessing about it again! I'm not gonna go too deep into the character design aspect. I would recommend checking out this video by Lines in Motion, because they explain the topic way better than I possibly can. But I want to highlight how every character is instantly recognizable, no matter if the art is black and white or if they change outfits and hairstyles. Every character design is different and tells you so much about them. And I think that also translates into them being so fun to draw. Trust me, I wouldn't have been able to do this illustration so fast if I wasn't having a blast while doing so. Ryoko Kui is such an incredible artist and mangaka, and even if you can't read the manga for any reason, I would urge you to search for her Daydream Hour series artsy posts, because it's so cute and the character interactions are so fun. Now, to the characters. Yeah, the main cast is amazing, and I will eventually go into each one of them to just gush about how much I love them. But before doing that, let's focus a second on some of the side characters and how my expectations were constantly subverted. I'm gonna be honest with you. At first I wasn't sure if I liked Kabru. The first time we switched our point of view to Kabru's team, I was just hoping to get back to the main party. Like, yeah, these guys were fine, but I'd much rather be watching Senshi cooking a miniature burger or something. After they died and got resurrected a couple of times, I was genuinely dreading we were going to focus on a stupid misunderstanding plot with Kabru's party, thinking Laios and his friends were evil and stole from them, and that was exactly where the plot seemed to be going until Kabru immediately figured out what was going on. After a bit, every time we changed to a different set of characters, I was feeling more and more intrigued and excited. I couldn't predict where the story was heading. Every new piece of information was constantly changing the stakes, and I wanted to see more of every character. I still loved going back to the main party, but I feel the switch of focus made the pacing flow better without it being too fast or repetitive. Kabru is one of the most crucial additions to the cast, not only by story focus, but by being the main antithesis to the main character Laios. To quote Tumblr user Awiti Lemon,
Kabru's out here playing 15-dimensional manipulation mind chess with a guy whose hobby is barking like a dog.
poor Kabru. In every other fantasy anime, he could have been the main character, but he got relegated to a side character in the monster grilling show. And I love that. Another character worth mentioning is Toshiro, or Shuro. I am not gonna lie, after reading that one scene of Shuro and Laios, I disliked him. After a couple more chapters, I took everything back, and now I'm a Shuro apologizer. Apart from that, like with Kabru, I was dreading a side plot of unnecessary character conflict. But, as it happened before, the story didn't go that way. The boys just beat each other up for 5 minutes and then Shuro did a 180 and made up. A thing I personally love world-building wise about Toshiro and his group is how interesting it is to see how different societies and cultures in that fantasy world work. How tall men from different parts of the world have different costumes and points of view regarding other races. Like in the Eastern Archipelago, tall men are just called humans because there really aren't that many people from the other races. While in the other parts of the world, human is a broad term for all the races. And how each region has its own idioms and they might know the same monster by different terms. I think it's such a nice way to make the world feel bigger and more real, without the need of constantly adding exposition. And then we have the Canaries. Oh boy, the Canaries. All the build-up for the Canaries presented them as a high-skilled, extremely dangerous, and the biggest menace the main group had ever faced until that point. And yeah, that's completely true. But at the same time, they are so silly. Kudos to Ryokokui for being able to create an antagonist group that is both meant to be serious and threatening, but has constant fun and lighthearted moments without making it less threatening or creating whiplash. By the end, I was deeply caring for every character, and even if in some scenes there was some misunderstanding, you know, my most hated trope, it didn't feel like it was an excuse to create more drama, but a natural response from characters with extremely different views and information given. And you got me there at the edge of my seat because I want everyone to survive and be happy, but that seems impossible, but I care so much about everyone and I can't talk anymore without spoiling it. But manga readers, I think you'll agree with me. My point is, the characters in Dungeon Meshi feel so alive and bring so much to the table, and I especially love how every one of them feels like their own person, and the way they interact and collide with each other creates fun and wholesome moments. And here's where I wanted to get. The character dynamics. It's not a secret Dungeon Meshi is a character-driven story. One of the main messages of the manga is how food is something that connects all of us, and the shared intimacy of the moments we cook and eat together and yada yada. Yes, even if the world building and plot are truly interesting, I think Dungeon Meshi wouldn't have been able to deliver its messages and story as well as it did if its characters weren't as good as they are. For anyone who likes to write or just want to create fun OCs, I think it's worth checking out how well written the character dynamics are. A key to creating good character is paying attention to the relationship and how different the interactions are between characters. Note, when I say relationship, I mean every kind of relationship, not only romantic ones. I feel I shouldn't specify that, but I don't want to unintentionally start some sipping discourse in the comments. And now, finally, I'm gonna go in depth with the main cast. Starting with Falling. I love Falling so much, he deserves the entire world. During the first chapters, when all the other characters were talking about how wonderful, perfect, and nice he is, I was afraid she was going to be that sort of extremely bland damsel in distress that everyone constantly says is flawless, but we don't really see how. Yeah, like with every other character, I ate my own words. I'm 100% with the main gang. If Fallen was in danger, I could put my picky eater ass aside and eat a harpy raw if necessary. I could fist fight a dragon for that woman. My main complaint with Dungeon Meshi is that there's not enough Fallen, which, even if I understand, I still want to complain about. Itsutsumi, her being added last to the party, brought so much to the main group dynamics and kept it so fresh. Also, she's probably the best depiction of a cat girl I've ever seen. She behaves like an actual cat. Her friendship with Marcel is sweet, and at the same time, it makes us see how much Marcel has grown as a person. Her relationship with Laios is just hilarious, since Itsutsumi is a chimera, and Laios is well known for his love for monsters and lack of knowledge of social cues regarding humans. But my favorite relationship is probably between her and Senshi. How she's the person that pisses off Senshi more than any other, by refusing to eat and throwing away her mushrooms. But still, he just cares a lot about her and wants to make sure this teenager he just met gets all the nutrients he needs. And talking about Senshi, I think Senshi is the character who my opinion of changed the least. When he was introduced, I thought he was awesome, and by the end, my opinion on him didn't really change. In the beginning, we get introduced to his philosophy and a strong moral code, and later we are given all the explanations for why he's so passionate and why he's so determined to make sure Laios and his group are well nourished, and man, it felt like punching the god! My main complaint about Senshi is that I got a bit thrown out of his depressing backstory because I found it so funny he just looked like Steven Universe when he was younger. Also, I've experienced the odd effect of improving my healthy habits by picturing Senshi telling me to have a balanced diet. Is it silly? Yeah. But does it work? Also, yeah. I think I underappreciated how hysterical the concept of Chilchak was. He is a middle-aged, divorced father of 3, a famous work right activist and unionist who just keeps being bossed around and forced to eat monsters by a bunch of 20-somethings, and a chef who thinks he's 12. I also love the way he refuses to give any personal information, even in situations where it could have avoided him problems. I think his dynamic with Marcel, who's notoriously nosy, is so underrated. And I also love how much of a father figure he becomes to Itsutsumi. He's literally the dad who didn't want a cat. Lastly, I want to talk about the 2 most important characters and my personal favorites, Marcel and Laios. I don't think it's controversial to say that Marcel is one of the best written and most complex characters in Dungeon Meshi. I love how she's so strict in following the rules, but then couldn't hesitate to perform illegal magic to resurrect her friend. I love how she's both extremely smart and a perfectionist, and a chaotic mess when she has to be spontaneous. I love how she's good at hidden magic, but she has no idea of basic biology. I love how hopelessly romantic and sweet she is, but she's specialized in exploring stuff. I love her character arc revolving around her fear of loss. And I love how in the middle of so much danger, she has time to change her hairstyle 40 times. Yes, if you took a shot every time I said love, you'd probably be at the hospital right now. But Marcel deserves nothing but love, and probably some therapy. And I left Laios for last because I assume by this point there could be fewer people watching and I could be more vulnerable. Extremely high IQ move. I don't think I've ever related to a character so much as I related to Laios. When I started reading, I kept saying multiple times to my partner how Laios was like me for real, because I also am a bit socially inept and I blurt random facts out of nowhere. Then, the scene with Toshiro I mentioned before happened, and then it hit me. Oh no, he's just like me. For real. The argument between them, when Laios finds out he has been constantly misunderstanding his interactions with Toshiro, and when Toshiro tells him that normally people notice the social cues and he should have attempted to do that more. Yeah, I heard that all this stuff before, but directed to me. Not because I decided to resurrect my sister with dark magic and she turned into a chimera. Not exactly that, but you know what I mean. My point is that I never related to a character so much before, to their struggles. It was painful to see this part of myself that I've grown to hate being reflected on Laios, and subsequently called out for that. But at the same time, I felt seen. Of course, I have related to many characters before. I relate a lot to other Dungeon Meshi characters like Marcel and Fallen. And still, there are so many important differences between the both of us. Mainly the fact that, as I mentioned before, I'm a picky eater. But Laios is the character I relate to the most out of any piece of media because I've never seen any depiction of this struggle that has resonated so much and so close to my own experience. And I'd like to thank Ryokokui for making me feel seen. This video was just a love letter to Dungeon Meshi. And to all the anime enjoyers who haven't read the manga, I hope you're ready for Season 2. No, really, I wasn't prepared for that ending. I spent too much time talking about my interpretations and things I personally loved about the manga. But by all means, feel free to comment if you have any different thoughts or criticisms, and if you agree or disagree with me. I hope you enjoy my ramblings and the illustration speed paint. If you want to see the full unedited speed paints, get quality downloads of my art, access my Discord server where I constantly post updates, or just support the channel a little bit, consider supporting me on my Patreon. You also get a shout out at the end of my videos like this. Thank you to Blanca Lee Jones, Sprocket Rocket, D, Orsi T, Austin Graff, Jinx Studios, Soapy Soapster, Annie Moore, and Pedalbook Interactive. I'm not sure what you guys think of videos like this, longer and more like an art commentary. I'd love to hear your opinions. That's everything for today. Bye! I have only constantly praised Dungeon Meshi in this video. I gotta say something negative so it doesn't seem I'm too biased. It annoys me how the anime chose to remove some crucial scenes, like when, in the first encounter against the lunatic magician, Senshi originally says his iconic catchphrase, "It's Senshin time," and he dances all over Thistle, while Marcel and Fallen have epic gay sex in the background.